My name is Emily, and I'm the head of learning at the intern group. Thanks to everyone for being here. If the intern group is new to you, I'm going to ask Manami to just go ahead and drop our website URL so you can take a click and take a look. And let's get started right away. So let's take a minute to let Diego, Jackie, and Vicky introduce themselves, and then we'll get started on our panel with hiring managers. Go ahead, Diego.
Hi all, thank you for coming. I'm Diego Cuero. I'm currently the COO at S1. It's a SaaS company focused on customer service, conversational. And in my free time, pretty much I like trail running. That's all about me.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie.
I'm Jacqueline, and I work at FAIR as a technical program manager. And free time, I like going to the hot springs nearby.
I'll go next then. I'm Vicky, head of marketing here at the intern group. In my free time, I really like to cook and read.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Well, let's dive right into the questions because that's why everybody's here. The first one is going to be for Jacqueline. So what specific qualities and skills are you looking for when you're hiring interns?
Yeah, so I work on the engineering and data science side, so it's very technical, but the first thing we look for is a match with core values. So FAIR, we have a few core values that really drive all the decisions we make, and so it's very principled. So we seek the truth. So we want you to be someone that asks questions, is constantly curious. We embrace the adventure. So you signed up for a role, but it might switch. So we want to see that you can flex and grow and learn in a moment's notice. And obviously technical skills are really important. So we want to make sure that you have the base of writing code and you know how to use GitHub, can land a PR, and have some project management skills as well around like understanding complexity of tasks, asking questions if you're not sure about the complexity of the task, and how to make a deadline and meet the launch dates and build quality code that's performant and has low security risks. Those are just some of the things.
Awesome. Thank you. And Vicky, I know you're more in the sector of marketing. What kind of things are you looking for, or what kind of specific qualities and skills are you looking for in an intern?
I think it definitely varies according to each role or the specific task that the intern is going to be doing. But I agree with Jacqueline, core values is key because it's really related to the way in which we work, how we make decisions, treat each other, etc. So core values are key. Then obviously within marketing, I look for somebody that has a real understanding and grasp of what we're wanting to communicate. I don't expect somebody or an intern to come to the interview and know exactly what our brand and our product is, but yes, to be able to put it in their own words, because that talks a little bit about their skills and how they're going to be able to do that in their day-to-day, in their job. Depends on the role again, management of social media, which ability they have in copywriting, writing skills, decision-making and prioritizing is also something that, although it changes according to the responsibility and the role, being able to measure someone's skills specifically on those tasks is essential. Marketing teams, for those that don't have context, always receive a bunch of feedback, ideas, let's do this and this other thing. So having somebody that knows how to, okay, this is a great idea, should we execute it now or not, also contributes a lot to the team. So yeah, I would say those are like top skills. Again, it depends a lot regarding each role.
Amazing. Thank you. I just want to draw everyone's attention really quick to the first thing out of Jacqueline and Vicky's mouths on this was core values. It wasn't technical skills. And this is one of the pillars that we teach when we teach how to prep for an interview. It's really key that you're understanding the company before you go into the interview. You can't understand what their values without having researched them first. And you can't understand if you align if you don't understand your values. So those are both really key steps when getting prepared for interviews. The next question is going to go over to Diego. How do you assess a candidate's potential for growth and development during their internship?
Good. I think that also has to do a little bit with the past question. In my case, usually my roles weren't that technical or those skills were not as relevant as maybe if you're looking for someone that knows how to code. So it was a lot about the core values. So again, what I look for most in the person is their ability to break problems into small parts. So actually structuring problems, how they do that. And that's not necessarily something you have to know beforehand. It's something that you kind of learn by whatever you, maybe even practicing sports, you can learn about how that way to tackle problems. Maybe you need to improve some skill in whatever game you play. This type of breaking problems into small pieces and structuring them is really important. And then how that the person actually goes on about learning. So how quickly they learn and how good are they at looking for understanding what they don't know and what they need to know to be able to grow, and where to find that information, and feeling free and confident in going out there and looking for that information by themselves or asking for help. So being able to really understand problems, structuring them, breaking them into small pieces, and be good at learning, and especially at learning are the the roles I usually look for are key to be able to see that that person is going to be able to grow in the company in the future or not.
Amazing, thank you. Jacqueline or Vicky, anything to add on that? How do you assess a candidate's potential for growth and development during their internship?
I like to ask sometimes questions that are a little bit more open, and for them to share, for example, projects that were successful or that weren't. That usually gives me a little bit of more than information on if they were successful or not on that project. It's what they define as success and how they learned from their past experiences. I don't know, I've worked at organizations where we had a mandatory test to give out. I don't always do that for every role because it's not always necessary, but allowing the person to share a short story about success or failure allows me a lot to understand, okay, were they able to learn from that? What did they take from it? Also, obviously, about their storytelling skills, which for marketing are great as well.
Amazing. I just want to draw people's attention to two quick things. One is that one of the questions that we get a lot from people when they're in this process is, I don't have work experience. How do I go into a job interview and talk about myself? And just both Diego and Vicky, the things that they're bringing up, neither of those things require that you have previous job experience. It just requires that you've been a human being living on the earth for a while and have developed some skills that are transferable. So really focus on that. And then I just want to draw attention to one more thing. What I hear from interns all the time is, I studied finance. I want to make these financial models as soon as I get in here. Or I studied tech. I just want to start like writing code immediately. And what I hear from hiring managers while they've got these interns and early talent on their teams is, I need soft skills. I can teach them technical skills, but like the soft skills, the self-awareness, the recognizing what success means for me, that's what they're looking for from you. So keep that in mind. So the next question is going to go to Jacqueline. What value do you see host organizations or employers providing for interns beyond the hands-on work experience? And what do you think interns take away in terms of learning and assets from these kinds of experiences?
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today. Lots of different points here. One, people skills. You work with a diverse group of people, a range of ages, tenures, experiences, and like how you build relationships with all of those different stakeholders across your team, outside of your team is in the university, you're usually surrounded by folks about your age, or in your first job, maybe like you're surrounded by people that maybe have similar tenures at, first job out of college, like you're talking with your friends from college, but at work, you're speaking with a very large range of people. And I think that's huge, is like, how do you build relationships? How do you build trust? How do you build influence with people that are not your managers or that are not managing you, but you still need their buy-in to do your work? So that one's a big one. And you can't learn that through ChatGPT or learning technical skills. And then the other one that really stood out to me too is like self-advocacy. no one is going to do your fight for you. You are your best manager. You are your best like champion. And that's something you learn. And that's what we want you to take away too at FAIR with our co-op program. We give you a lot of leg room and runway to do the things that are important to you, that are interesting to you, that have an impact on the business. But you have to advocate for yourself. We give you the tools, we give you the resources and the infrastructure, but like, you take it as far as you want to go. And so really learning to advocate for your interests, your ideas, and like having a voice, that's something that we really want you to experience. And the other one is business like dependencies. So I'm on the engineering and data side. Writing code is what we do, building the product for our customers, but you're not just writing code in a isolated place. The code that you write impacts our customers. The legal team might need to get involved because you're writing IP software. Marketing wants to know, how do we talk about what you're building? The customer success team needs to know, how do we answer questions when they come in about this new feature, this bug that's affected 500 people yesterday. And so really understanding the impact of your decisions, and like, you're not just doing this one project, it really has an impact across the company, and it can lift our revenue, it can lift our customer experience, and it can make a more beautiful and meaningful product, but it's not just on your own. And I don't think I think that's something unique to an internship. Yep.
Amazing. And Diego, I'm wondering if you have anything to add there. Like, what do you think interns are taking away from this type of experience in terms of learnings, relationships, etc.?
Yeah, I think at least what we try to do, or actually, and that's when we don't have interns, but in Mercado we had, and in Bain and Johnson, etc. I think, I don't know if you always take away with it, but it's really important for people to know what Jacqueline was talking about. Like, I don't know if it's a word or a phrase, but self-advocacy. Like, you're responsible for making things happen for you in the company. And that's when you're an intern, and that's always true. That's important to know. I mean, ideally you have an amazing manager that helps with that, but that's not always the case. But I think another thing you take, also what Jacqueline was talking about, like thinking of a company and everything you do, like as part of a system, because that actually is what happens. Everything you do has an impact on the rest of the organization, and it can be really small or really big, but it does help towards the goal of the organization. The other thing I think it's really important, and you don't always take that from the life out of work, is different ways people communicate and different types of relationships, and how to understanding and reading between lines when you communicate with people. So I think usually in university, group of friends, etc., usually relationships are a little bit more sincere, transparent, candid. And many times at work, unfortunately, it's harder to have those types of relationships with the rest of the people or the organization, especially when you go farther from your core. And being able to read what's happening is really important. And I think through a good way or bad ways, that's something you usually tend to really learn when you're an intern and you start working, because things go really good or really bad because you don't know how to read those cues. And I think that's really important for life.
I love that. Those are all really good points. And that, again, I'm hearing a lot of focus on an internship. You're going to use technical skills. You do. It's part of the job. But, what is more impactful on your professional life and on your personal life is all of these soft skills, ways of thinking, mindsets. I definitely heard building relationships, ecosystemic thinking, self-advocacy, autonomy, nonverbal communication. And I just want to draw attention to that, because something that we see happening a lot with young talent, especially when this is their first work experience, is a real lack of confidence and being able to express themselves and being able to advocate for themselves and being able to understand not just their role, but also the value that they have within that organization and within larger systems. So I think that the points that you guys are bringing up here are really, really important. And focus on that when you go into your internship. It's not about making that financial model. It's not about writing that code. It's about developing all of these abilities and skills that Jacqueline and Diego just brought up. Amazing. Thank you so much. So the next question, let's start with Vicky. What kind of market and industry challenges do you think early career professionals are facing today? And what advice would you give them?
I'm trying to think a little here. I think there's a reality, the context changed a lot in the past few years. I mean, obviously COVID and just time passing by and the world advancing in terms of technology. I remember I did 2 internships. They were key for my career. I learned a lot. At my first internship, I had a desktop computer, would have to go from one office to the other with my notepad and a pen, and had to go to HR, marketing, etc. And the reality today is that is not happening. We're all behind a computer constantly. We have to go over to Slack or some kind of chat to see the different team members, go over to the HR tool to see how the company is organized, etc. So I think that is a challenge nowadays. I see it as something super positive though, because at the same time, as an intern, you have access to the whole world in your organization if you work in a remote or partially remote organization. If it's in person or hybrid, you get that taste of the good life that we used to have as well. And it depends obviously on everybody's personal choices. But I think that is a different reality. Then the reality of communication. It happens to me. I am quite young yet, I consider myself, but I have trouble understanding the codes of people 10 years younger than myself. And because they're on TikTok and use different social media, etc., it is currently a challenge for myself at work right now. We're looking for an intern actually, so just spreading the word out there because of that different culture code that they use. So I think it's important to embrace that as a reality, not try to change it, but understand how you can use that as a tool. What are you bringing new to the organization? What can you bring to the table? So I don't know if I'm answering your question right now, like directly. If you want, you can repeat it again, but I do think one of the challenges and differences is that young students might be facing. They're probably reporting to people that have more experience than themselves, but that are also learning how to communicate with interns and work with them. So I think that's something to consider. I do want to pinpoint something as well, though. It depends on each one of us what we consider a success or failure, but you are doing an internship to learn, and managers are expecting that you learn. How quickly you learn depends on your times, on your reality, but going into an internship with the concept of, oh, okay, I have to do this perfectly, I can say is definitely not the best mindset. You have to go and give your best 100%, but don't go in with the mindset of what your parents are expecting, what books are telling you to do, etc. Go there to learn, because that's what you're expected to do, to learn and to bring something new during that learning process.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Diego, would you add anything to there? What market or industry challenges do you think early careers are facing today? And what advice do you have with them for them?
I think some are like the ones that you always have, and it's just that things change, or you have a booming market or a down market. Maybe now it's not the most amazing one. I think markets are getting even more data driven. So understanding data and understanding how to use data to make better decisions, or help with your decision making is going to be ever more important. But I think something that this guy, professor, I like what he says. It's called Scott Galloway. Is pretty well known, maybe. But he says one of the challenges that young people entering the workforce are going to have is being able to work remote or in a hybrid model has a lot of benefits. It's amazing. But one of the challenges is that you're not in the office with the same people all the time. So relationships you don't build them as easily as before in many cases. But he emphasizes on feedback. So what he sees is that and I see it in my day-to-day with my teams, it's not as easy as before, at least for us, for how I learned how to work, to give big feedback to my teams. Because I was used to a way of giving feedback that today is hard for it to happen because those spaces and those times just are not there. You have to look for them and make them happen. So I'm not saying it'll happen, but maybe be aware. You're there to learn, as Victoria said, and the rest. So feedback is key to learning. It's like the main input that you want. So just be aware and try to see if you're receiving the feedback that you need in terms of quality and quantity. And if not, just go look for it. There are many companies that really have resolved this, and it's not a problem for them. But especially, I think companies that are transitioning from a really like old way of working to new remote and hybrid ways of working may have these problems in their teams, and they don't really know how to figure it out yet. So just be aware.
I think those are really good points. I think especially around remote and hybrid, like even 5 years ago, the amount of like hybrid and remote work that there was niche. And most of you that are going into your career now, like you'll be working most likely hybrid or remote, or at least have more flexibility than anyone ever has in the entire history of work. And your leaders also are learning how to do this because it's new. So I feel like the point also that you brought up, Diego, around like, you know, have a little flexibility with your boss and really focus on, am I getting that feedback that I need and in order to grow here? This is great. Next question is going to go over to Jacqueline. Can you describe the typical responsibilities and projects that are assigned to interns within your organization?
Yeah. So the first 30 days is really about onboarding. It's what does our business do? Who are the people you're working with? And taking the time to understand like what's our code. Again, I'm on the engineering and data science side. So what's our code base look like? How can you navigate it? Can you find the things that you need? And then in those first 30 days too, you're doing a lot of coding with your mentor. We have a pretty robust buddy system when you first join that you're partnered with for a long time. So gradually over time, you'll be doing less work with them and doing more on your own. But the idea is by the end of the internship, which is about 4 months, you're the directly responsible person for leading a full project. So I actually pulled up some of the project like titles and kind of things that people have done before. So like some people have improved the onboarding workflow on the web. Like a front-end intern was able to improve the whole onboarding experience for a new brand and built a new banner. One front-end engineer recently did the whole design doc. So they wrote the design doc for designing a new feature. And that's where you bring in your partners on the design side and the product manager side to make sure that it's a viable thing that you can build and it makes sense to build it. And you're looking at metrics, you're looking at impact, you're designing an experiment. And so they did that. One of our backend engineers recently led efforts to complete a migration, the full thing, led that. One introduced a security check on our onboarding for brands so that it reduced fraud, and that saves us millions of dollars. That's a big one. On the mobile side, a recent co-op won our internal hackathon, which was an image search app, which was really cool. There's so many different projects that our interns have done, and we have a huge library of all the impact. They've done real work that is in front of real customers and in production. So it's really exciting. It's not just like random things that you're doing. You're working on real stuff, and also contributing to improved onboarding experience, improved education that act like an owner core value that we have. It really comes into play here and like improving our hybrid work experience by contributing to changes and leading by making suggestions and like building the culture. So those are just some of the things.
I love it. Not just getting coffee.
No, like not even close. Yeah.
That only happens in movies. Real life internships,
Yeah.
they're not like that.
Yeah, no.
I know. I'm just like imagining the face on an intern if I was like, go get me coffee. They'd be like, I'm calling like the Department of Work or something. Okay, great. And can we, Diego, Victoria, I'm not sure if you want to add anything else on there about what types of responsibilities and what types of things interns are doing while they're with you. And then if we can maybe take a question or two, and then we've got to wrap it up.
I don't have great examples, but at least from the companies that we did offer internships, it was a nice mix between very like closed projects that did have an impact on the rest, but that weren't like so dependent on flows of information and working with different teams. So you were really able to actually move forward and deliver something that was interesting and relevant without needing the help of too many people in the organizations. And it was a project that was not as relevant or key to the organization. So it was a nice mix of responsibilities and but without having too much pressure within it. In our cases, it was usually related to some project where you had to dig into a lot of data, clean it, understand it, present it, and try to take actionable things. And if the maybe the that part was too small, or there was a chance to renew the internship, actually take on and try executing the action points that came out of that.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Again, we're going to take, I see that we've got one question. We've got maybe time for 2 quick questions. Again, though, if you're not familiar with the intern group, Manami, I'm going to ask you to throw the URL in the chat. Go ahead and click, take a look at us. So I see a question up here that is, how do companies feel about hiring older college students for internships?
I mean, age is not a factor. Like, I don't think it's ever across Uber, Airbnb, Udemy, and Fair. We have people. There's so many different age ranges, and yes, there tends to be a skew towards recent college grads, or university grads, but no. And one of the programs I worked on at Airbnb was not in specific to this question, but just an example of parents returning to work after taking time away to be caregivers. So companies value and know like every range of experience and tenure matters. I think it's even like discriminatory to think about age. So it's not a factor. And I switched careers from teaching into tech in my late 20s. And so I was maybe older than, or yeah, and it didn't matter at all. I wouldn't consider that a thing.
Awesome. Vicky, Diego, what's your view on that?
I was going to add on to Jacqueline and how cultural differences are so wide because, for example, I live here in Argentina and you have to put your birth date and a bunch of personal information in your CV, which in other countries you don't have to. So it makes sense for an intern to be like, or anybody applying to a job to be like, oh, what are they going to read in between the lines of my CV? My suggestion is really in line with Jacqueline's. Like the recruiter and recruiting manager is going to look at your skills, and we've learned how to read between the lines of CVs because we've done, I don't know, I've seen for job postings over 800 curriculums for you guys to have an idea. And I think that, yeah, age is definitely not a factor. Even within the intern group, we had an intern, she was a mom, but she finished her master's and she was, I don't know, close to 40 years old. And she did an internship with us because she was looking for a very specific internship in tech in Europe. And so, yeah, I don't think there's any, like age is not at all a factor to impact on that.
Great. I would also add there, I've had interns that were older than me and interns that I could be their mother. So I think, again, like the most important thing is that you're coming in there eager to learn. Jacqueline, Diego, Victoria, this was such great information. I know that we all have a lot of questions when we're going into a new experience. So it was really great to hear from the hiring manager side where you're at, what you're looking for, what you're thinking, because that's really going to help all of our interns go into this interviewing experience with a little bit more preparation.